Hello, everyone, and greetings from WBIS LP 106.9. This is Let's Talk Real Life with Native Manning, a late night talk show, ladies and gentlemen. We are definitely in for a treat today. It's an awesome day. We're talking about one of the most important subjects that I believe to community, and not just one part of the community, do the whole community. Ladies and gentlemen, but let me do a bit of housekeeping. This is WBIS 106.9 FM and 100.3 Rocky Mount. You can call in and get involved in the show tonight if you dial 252-756-2008. You'll be blessed with an opportunity to ask Miss Manning a question directly, or you can comment on something I
Mhm.
may have said that you think you may not like or agree with, or you might agree. Call in and let us know, ladies and gentlemen. If you're watching the replay on Roku television, we thank you. We appreciate you. If you're watching the replay or social media live view of this show tonight, we definitely want to appreciate you liking and sharing it and making a comment. We'll see it. We'll address it right on the air. All right, finally, ladies and gentlemen, you can listen to www.bis awesomeradio.org 24 hours, 7 days a week on the website. You can just go up there and hit the player, the media player, punch that button, hit the player, the media player, punch that button. All right, ladies and gentlemen, without further delay and a silent drum roll, here is our host of today's show, Let's Talk Real Life with Native Manning. How are you?
Good morning, everyone. I am doing well, and I hope everyone under the sound of my voice are doing well also. It is once again a pleasure to come to you tonight. As my co-host was saying, the topic of the hour is going to be very interesting. I found it to be so, and I am almost sure it's going to go past this one session of tonight. The topic being um, mental health. Mental health. There are signs of mental illness. There are different ways that different people interpret um, a mental issue, and we want to do our best to bring out some of the high points of this subject that affects everybody, every last one of us at some point, and some of us are going through it right now. So we're hoping that you will listen, tune in very closely. And like he said, please, by all means, whatever is on your mind, whatever misunderstanding about what's being said, please feel free to address it because communication is key. And mental health is a huge, huge, huge area, more than worthy of discussion. So we want to be able to help all of those who can be helped, which I believe everybody can. It's your willingness to be helped. So I'm going to start with just that, just letting you know this is what the topic is going to be about. Coach is going to take the lead on this subject, and I'm going to follow suit. And whatever his concerns are, I will address them to the best of my ability. As usual, now I don't know everything, and I'm not going to get everything right. I'm going to miss some things, and so I'm just going to provide my point of view. So, Coach, if you don't mind, you can start as we talk about this mental health issue that's
All right.
worldwide. It's not just right here in this part of the country, it's everywhere. All right, as we move
Abs-
forward.
Absolutely beautiful introduction, and thank you. Anybody that want to stand in front of me and uh, take some questions, I tell you, I commend them. I really do. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I want to preface the tonight when I use the word black and African American community, I want to use it in a social setting. I am Afrocentric because by nature I am a black male. I am proud to be a black male. I'm proud of things about other races too here in America. But I just want to center on this team, if you will. Let's look at it in a sports scenario. The black team, we've got to play better. And mental health, substance abuse
Mhm.
is. I'm expecting us to play better in that arena. Um, we've cascaded throughout the ages with notable issues, and we're going to get right into it. I want to say I'm going to read you something about mental health and how it's perceived in the black community. The stigma and judgment prevent black and African American people from seeking treatment for their mental illnesses. Why? Research indicates that black and African Americans believe that mild depression or anxiety will be considered crazy in their social circles. Now we use that term a lot. I think you crazy. I think, but then we use that term a lot seriously. But as that statement says, and we're going to slow down and have a discussion about this, we call each other crazy at times because it's a inordinate affection, if you will. It's sort of a negative positive. But at times we are suffering from issues that lead to substance abuse, that lead to suicide, that leads to clinical depression where your brain is not working right. I know there's some spiritual uh, people who feel very spiritual about a depressive attack on the human body. But do you take that word crazy lightly? Do you use that, Miss Nada? How do you feel about that? Um, when you said there wasn't a lot of doctors visits going on years ago growing up, what did you see you know, done about mental illnesses that were more apparent than just a mild depression? What did you see being done about it? Just
Well, truthfully speaking, um, like I mentioned last week, back during that time, uh, there wasn't a whole lot of room for what one might call having a mental issue. And I say that because, okay, comparing today's time with then, I believe that there was not enough time in a day for a person to really have what one might call a breakdown or um, anxiety, so to speak, because those days were hard working days. Their days were filled, and when they were not working, they were so tired. They when they got home, they ate and went to sleep, and the next day it was the same thing. Today, there's a lot of lead time in a day for a lot of people that don't have anything to do with their time. So it gives room for them to develop anxieties, think about things that are not going well, and it takes them to a slump, if you will. And their mind gets away from them because their mind and their bodies are not being utilized enough to prevent their thoughts from going south. So in my era back then, I've never heard of uh, depression or mental. I might have heard of maybe a breakdown or something every now and then, but it wasn't as pronounced as it is today. So I would say that today's time, because of the lack of activities meaning jobs, something constructive to keep a person busy, they have too much lead time, and therefore It's open to letting their minds wander and thinking and what ifs and how come and why not, all of that, because they have time now to think about it. I hope that answers your question. And comparing back in the day to today, we just
It
worked too
does.
hard. My parents, it was just too much work to do. That field work took up all of your time, and you were exhausted at the end of the day.
I see that as a very, very, very vivid example of live and let live. Soak it up. You don't have time to be sick. I see that. I really see the reality of that. And I'm trying to make a translation of that to now in the areas where we said that, we don't seek mental health treatment as we talked about in the last show. I see that as probably a traumatic event in our history, in the way that we work and we managed our families. And I see that as trauma because we're job dependent. We're still job dependent mostly, and we don't have time to budget. You don't have time to. You've done. I heard Dick Gregory say on one of the videos, how many hours in a day? In his interviewer said 24. How many hours you expected to sleep? 8. How many hours you got left? 16. How many hours you expected to work? 8. Now you get home, you haven't slept, you haven't you haven't said hello to your family, you haven't called your mom, you haven't even eaten yet. There's no time. You got just a few hours to eat and rest, and that cycle is going to start again. And you're telling me you went into overdrive when you're talking about them fields. So now I think that was traumatic enough to affect us now. When it comes to mental health, we kind of had to have a space, a gap there. And so now it's sort of a surreal moment when you do see someone with really, really severe mental illness and they're not congruent, they're talking a different language, they're acting, uh, of- you know, abnormal. You can see that and it kind of scares you because they can't help it. But how about the person that's quiet, soundproof, or always angered, anger management, anger issues? That person, we just perceive them as like they just acting up all the time, but they truly have a mental health issue. We talked last week about forecasting, going into chat about the youth's mental issues here. So I want to read a transition over into that area. And I believe we'll take some time with our youth because we really need to speak to the audience today about how to respond to our youth with mental issues because they're going to be the ones taking care of us here shortly. What factors contribute to mental health of Black youth? Participants identified the dominant factors contributing to mental health problems as racial discrimination, the intergenerational gap in families, microaggression and stigma, academic expectations, financial stress, lack of identity, previous traumatic events, and religion. Oh, wow, that's a mouthful. Let's start at the last thing that was said and go backwards. Previous traumatic events and religion plays a role in the mental health issues of the Black youth. Now, how could that be a major issue? Traumatic events and religion.
Well, I would say it's an issue because there are so many different kinds ways of practicing religion. We have those that are in the church, and we have so many different kinds of churches, and they teach differently. So when you have the African American youth that's being taught in the churches and Sunday school about um, our way of what we believe the Bible is saying, but now
Mm,
they go to school and they mix their ideas with other races who are not being taught the same thing. So it becomes confusing to the youth. And sometimes they'll come home and they'll ask their parents or whoever their responsible adult is, well, so and so said such and such a thing that, for example, somebody said in the classroom that there is no God, there is no Jesus, they don't believe in Jesus, and this and that and the other. And so they come home with mixed feelings, mixed thoughts. The ones that are in the school that are of a different um, upbringing in religion are being taught something different. So they go home to their parents. So the children come back to school and they get together and they talk about it. So
mhm.
all the children are now confused. So it relates back to, okay, parent, this is what's being taught in the church about religion, but how are you going to fix this confusion? Some parents address it and some parents don't. Those
Right.
that don't address it, probably because they don't know themselves, because they don't attend the services themselves. So
Mhm.
it's left hanging for the child to draw their own conclusion. Sometimes they get with someone that's teaching the same things, and sometimes they don't. So it becomes a problem, religion, in the religion world for these children and some adults too, some young adults. It's not always just the children. Some of these young adults, they grow up with the same mindset. So it goes
Mhm.
back to what? Somebody needs to teach them what the actual Bible says
Come on.
to unclog their brain. So how in the world can religion be a problem? Because they're being taught and heard so many different things instead of sticking to what the Word of God says. It's only one God. I don't care how many religions there are. It's only one God.
Let
So
me go ahead.
that's it.
All right,
Go
let me
ahead.
jump in on that one with the religious part. When you're being taught right from wrong spiritually, and then you are not being taught right from wrong uh in the street socially. One,
Secular.
secular. Thank you. Much better word.
Mm-hmm.
The two, when you're learning about God and you're learning at church, the accountability is different between both of them. Um, One, you kind of get in trouble because you're going to hell, and it's not a social acceptable thing. One is both of them have peer pressure, getting in trouble in the street and getting in trouble in your family. But you got selective enforcement with certain families that are more in tune with God than your family is. So you have one family that if you display, let's take one traumatic behavior that was they just did a study on, and 3 years ago I read the outcome of this study. They did a study that people that found that their son or daughter was displaying behavior of the opposite gender, opposite sex. So you would say gay behavior. I think we used to say mannish behavior or fast, but they would find their child acting out, if they're a boy, acting out like a girl, putting on girl clothes. They would take that child and
The
have the child. So what now?
The word back in my day was faggot.
Okay. I hadn't
Fag.
heard that word
Fag.
in so long. It's been a few years since I heard the F word. So yes, they will
Yeah.
have that child going to get prayed for, one, to
Yeah.
cast out the demons, and two, they will have that child, they will whoop that child. Get that mess out of you. You don't act that way. So this study came out when these children grew up. Did that work? So they surveyed a lot of men and women. Did the healings work? The casting out of demons, and did the discipline, the whoopings, the hiding those clothes, the you know, did that response work in the black community? Did it stop those children from becoming bisexual or gay or faggots, like you just said? Did it stop those children? So now they have data today because they interviewed the children that have grown up and become adults. And they asked them a gazillion questions about how that affected their sex life, their religion, and their family settings at home when they were, you know, pushed into the closet because of their sexual promiscuity or their exploration of it. I, for one, didn't think that any all children that acted that way was gay. I thought they just like they do in the movies nowadays. They just make you do the gay role. Some actors will be like, "I'm not playing the opposite sex. I'm just not going to do it. I'm not playing that gay thing and just to get into Hollywood." But so I know all of them don't have sexual issues like that. But back to my point, the study came out that that was not effective. The way that the black families specifically treated their children and responded. I would say a response or a reaction. A response meaning we got to get you to the pastor, we got to get you prayed for, we got to get you healed, we got to get you deliverance, and also they found it ineffective the spankings and the whoopings that some of those children got. You know better putting on that. You're not you're not no boy. You know, the chastisement, if anything, it was traumatic to those children. And so they all grown up now. So I guess they answered the question of the surveys. To me, that's an example of, but you want to respond to what I just said? Because we got time.
Well, I guess the response is a question. How would one address such behavior other than being physical with them, with the beatings or the slapping on the face or just shaking them loose and saying that's not what you're supposed to be doing? Um, I guess the only other alternative would be to just sit down and talk with them. If you find that the other things didn't work, then just probably the first thing to do would be to ask the question. Talk to them. Ask them, well, what makes you think that this is okay to behave this way? What happened, or who you talked to, or who persuaded you to say that, to make you believe that this is okay? And get some responses from. I think that in any issues, talking to the people, boys, girls, men, women, talking to them up front about a particular situation, to give them a chance to open up about it if they will, if they feel comfortable enough. You as the, I guess you want to call yourself the interviewer or the questionnaire, find out what's going on, what's happening, and use a real concerned, loving, caring tone, not an angry tone, because then they'll climb up. because they'll think and believe that you're mad with them. So what's the point talking about it? Because you're mad anyway. That's what I'm thinking would be a good way to address the issue. Um, Not just throw it under the rug and ignore it like it's not. That's the worst thing to do. Like it's not real. Like it's not happening. That's not just with homosexuality. That's with any type of lifestyle, whether it be drugs or prostitution or alcoholism. You know, any of that. Talk about it. Sometimes talking help. Sometimes, maybe not all the time, but talk about it. Communicate. That's all I'm saying.
I'll say this. I will say now translating into today's time where we're doing a lot of talking and children are getting a lot of therapy, children are getting gender assignment therapy early, children are actually participating in what they're saying they want to be, and if you're acting like a girl and feeling like a girl or a guy, I say this. And then you got the conservative side saying we don't want to condone any other sexual category except male and female. I'm gonna
Okay.
lean toward I'm gonna lean towards that because I think that we all have issues with a lot of stuff. We have issues with food, we have issues with sex, we have issues with religion, we have issues with race. So I think that
That's
we
for sure.
believe that Christianity is the way, the truth, and the light around the world. Well, others they weren't exposed to that, so how would they know? So they believe
Right.
that their religion is the way, the truth, and the light. Um, I believe we God is smart enough to see us different than we see ourselves. You follow me? We underestimate God.
Yeah.
We say that we know the only way to be reached and the only way to find God, is how we do it. When we got half the stuff we got messed up, the way we got the Bible written and all jacked up. So I said all that to say this. I believe if in the male and the female gender, period. Once you stick with that, there are other things going on in people's lives. There were situations where people were molested. There's situations where people were trained and coached and through sexual promiscuity to act certain ways. You don't know what caused a person. Could be human trafficking. Child could have been sold as a sex slave when they were children. You don't know how to judge people. We don't know how to judge people. So we stick with the male, female, and the ones who have issues, we gotta encourage them to seek help. We don't necessarily have to uh, tear them down in public, which has caused them to say, "Hey, we want to get our rights." Which has caused them to feel like, "Okay, we're gonna get every civil right that we can." Then you want to discriminate against us?
Right.
We just gonna fight back with you. And therefore, you got people that ain't even drag queens dressing like drag queens just because they want to side with a good cause. You got people that just now is popular going to try to see about getting a sex change or whatever when they just wanted to be uh, sideways just by choice. And you don't know the real people who have real issues that are born with issues in their gender area. I guess I might have said that right. Some people are born with certain issues that they have, hormone issues. But I said all that to say, let's draw a line. I want to be conservative. I'm gonna lean on the side of homosexuality is wrong. It's not natural. I'm gonna lean on that side, but I'm also gonna say when you find somebody that's in a certain sexual situation and confused or acting a certain way, they're doing it for a reason, and we got to find out what it is, and we got to be there for them, and they can come back, just as well as they went. Who? What would you? Why? If you got on drugs, would you want me to give up on you?
No, and that's why I say, as it pertains to the subject matter for tonight, folks, we're live on the air. I am your host, Nada Manning, and we are talking about real issues that can lead to some mental health conditions. Certainly, this particular topic is one of many that can lead a person to a mental health concern and being in that position. To sum that up with that particular topic of homosexuality, I still say, and I stand by what I just said, is communicating and talk with the individual, find out, be concerned, don't just let it go. Talk with them and find out where they are, um, if they're willing to open up to you. And you, as an individual who is the one to promote this interaction of conversation, relationship, if you will, with that individual, a mentor, coach, whatever you want to be, counselor, therapist. Have a genuine concern for the person. Be genuine about it because, like children, people can see through genuineness. And it's all about how you approach them. You don't want to approach them with a negative attitude. You shouldn't be doing this anyway, blah, blah. No. How can I help you? How can I assist you in feeling better? Perhaps changing your mind about what you're doing. How can I do to help? What can I do to help? What would you like to see happen with your life? And if for whatever it is, if I can help you with that, then please allow me to help you because I want you to be happy through and through. That's the kind of approach that one I think one would want to take for that particular very delicate situation because that is very delicate in today's time. It's very delicate. It's wide open. The world know ain't no more in the closet, nothing. Everything laying out on the floor in the living room, in the kitchen, on the porch. Nothing is in the closet anymore. If it is, it's very few in the closet. The closet door is open, wide open.
Mm.
Amen.
All right. I got we're still talking about children. Lack of identity and financial stress in the black community, in the black youth. And first of all, this is new for me this year. I didn't think the identity thing was as important as I do right now. I'm evolving. I think the child needs to know that they're black. I think there's so many things we do that we want to be inclusive. We want to be respected as a black person. We want to be respected as a human. We want to be, but there are too many things ornaments hanging in society now to say no, it's all of us together. There's too many. Every time you turn around, well, first time a black president, first time a black vice president, first time a black person won this event, first time a black person, two people, two black quarterbacks played in the Super Bowl together. There's too many cues that show you that if you're trying to be multicultural, that show you that you're black. So I'm just gonna go ahead and say you are a black man. You are a black, which I hate the word black. I wish there was something other than black. Like I said, I think Jesse Jackson did African American or Negro American, whatever he did. Negro, anyways. But y'all get my point. I'm about to hush so you can jump in, Miss Nada. But lack of identity to me relates to financial stress because of our position, and we could be labeled as minorities, in which we could be labeled as just a worker race. Here in America, we do the work for white people. Let's see, I didn't say that wrong. I said it right. in America, we have built America as it is. And I'm not saying it in pride. I'm just saying I ain't even say the S word, the SALVERY word. I didn't even say it. I probably didn't spell it right either. I didn't say that word. I'm just saying we're the working class people for years and years and years here in America. We're not proud. We don't get accolades for being a working class because we're not supposed to stay the working class. This is a capitalistic society. You're a young black man, or a black woman. You're one of the most creative things on the earth. But we hate ourselves. We self hate. We don't take pride in it. I think we're the only race that we actually feel bad about being black, but we'll say I'm black and I'm proud, but we feel worse than we actually say we do.
And you want to
Ta-da.
tie that into mental health.
Yeah, the issue of self identity. Little black kids don't know that they don't know who they are. They don't know that they are valuable. They just think they got to grow up and get a job and work for somebody for the rest of their life. And unless we start telling them what our accomplishments are, that we invented, half the society wouldn't be like it is if we didn't invent what we invented. But we don't own the NFL, but we are the strongest element of the NFL, and we don't get credit for it because we don't own it. We don't get credit for the United States because what? We don't know political science enough to get the top positions to be, we've only had, I think it's four black governors now in the history of the United States. So we don't get the power positions. And we got to tell the little black boys and girls that you have to own the institutions. We have to start schools. We can't get mad at white people because they don't share their factories with us. They don't share equal pay with us sometimes. That they'll pick their sons and daughters over us. And we call it discrimination. But we mad at them because they won't let us run their company or have the highest paying job. We have to have our young black boys and girls become doctors, become lawyers, have family to direct the students to become the things your family needs, because this is a society that's based on working for yourself. And if you don't work for yourself, you got to ask somebody for 2 weeks off out of the whole year to go enjoy your family. That's sickening.
So to tie that into, yeah, to tie that into um, mental health, it plays a major role in their growth process because, like you were saying, to a little child, why is it my friend JoJo or Joey or Steve or whoever it is,
Yeah, Joey and Steve.
right? They can go and to the store and they can get whatever they want to get and pay for it. Okay, I come home. Mom, Dad, my friend Steve went to the store today. I went with him and I saw that he could get whatever he wanted in the store and didn't have to pay for it. But when I wanted to get something, they told me I had to pay for it. That's an automatic distinguished difference right there in that child's mind. Why is it they can have it and I can't have it? What's the difference in them and me? Mom, Dad. So as they grow older and face other challenges like that, as they become teenagers, particularly in the school system, it becomes a mental thing because they don't understand what's going on. So it's up to, again, as always, I say, it's up to the responsible adult in the family in charge of that person, that child, or that teenager to tell them. Communicate to them why things are the way they are and what they can do to better themselves as they go through the process to avoid that mental health issue occurring. It's called talking to them. Sit them down and explain what's going on.
Come
Many
on.
times I notice a lot of families don't tell their children about certain things. They just let it go. Don't worry about it. Just go on over there and play. It'll be all right. Well, tomorrow, next week, they face another challenge like that. They come home and tell the parents, I told you not to worry about that. It's going to be all right. It's not going to be like that always. But the child is still confused. It might be like that always if you don't show or tell him or her, how to handle it.
Come on.
So it becomes a mental thing in that child's mind as they grow older to become teenagers and on into adulthood. They go to college or get their jobs and they still being treated differently and they still don't understand why. So they develop anxieties.
Come on.
They develop attitudes. And then they ready to hurt somebody because they know it's not right, but nobody explained to them why it's like that. So, what can we do as adults in this society to help these younger generations to deal with the way things are? All we can do is share our experiences, pray, and let them know what best way to handle whatever the situation is. At least they have something to go on, rather than just letting them hang out there on the line and just drive rock hanging on the line. That's not solving the problem for them. Talk to them, explain to them, and stop covering it up. No, you don't let it go. No, you don't make them go sit down. You have to explain eventually. You're going to have to tell that child you should anyway. And that's my point to make on that.
I believe we should
To
stop
avoid that.
lying. We should stop lying to our
Yeah.
children about Santa Claus in a sense that there's this white guy that's giving out stuff. I think when you learn as a child, when you go to the white person house, when I went to a white person house and I saw all the toys and stuff they had, I wanted them. But eventually, as I grew up, I realized that the white people had stuff that the black people didn't. And I didn't see it from a racist point of view. I didn't feel like they had the unfair advantage. I didn't feel like I
Right.
needed to take their stuff from them and bring it to my house. I didn't feel like I needed them to give me things that I didn't have. I did feel like they all let me play with it though. Them guns and the toy guns, and so
Right.
your
Mm-hmm.
child is picking up cues in the nation. Now I remember talking to somebody, and I was just talking to somebody today. Who was it? They say when they was growing up, they did not know that they did not have. They did not know what they did not have. They didn't know they were poor. They didn't know they didn't have certain things. Now I could get that. They were poor, but they didn't know. It was about 8 people, 8 children. They didn't know they didn't have things. I knew growing up, the 70s and the 80s, I didn't have certain things. And I will say this: I knew for long that black people were treated different. I know I was treated different. Now, here's the thing: I didn't know why, but I know slightly that I was treated different when I was put in that special class. I wasn't retarded. I didn't and we use that word then. So those who are offended by it, I'm sorry. But we used that word retarded back in the 70s, whatever, 80s. I knew I was being treated different. So what I'm saying today is your child needs to know who they are. They need to be firm because they're about to go through a lot of changes. Who hasn't talked to their child about driving while black and what to do if a police officer stops them? Because it's a psychological thing. It's a mental thing that black people are afraid of cops. When you get older, I don't care if you grew up like the Cosby family, you know there are millions of black people in jail. for low level crimes, low hanging fruit that the police decided to go pick up for crack, knowing that they were going to disproportionately arrest a large population in the 80s, Bill Clinton with the war on drugs, knowing that they were going to have millions of black men in jail for petty crimes, marijuana, crack cocaine, in which they were addicted to, and can't none of us make the stuff. So I don't know where it came from. So it know it came from outside of the community. Okay, I never ran into nobody to make crack. Then and black folks ain't made methamphetamine meth. We we scared to touch battery acid. Goodness well we ain't made no meth. We don't want to mess with nothing. When we touch it, we're gonna die. So there's some stuff going on that identity wise we need to get straight with our children, because the last thing I'm gonna say about that in 4 minutes, I'm gonna yield it to you. I got 12 seconds to say it, and that is we have to level up. Our children have to perform better now for ourselves, not to compete against white people. No, 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 no. Stop that. We have to perform better for us, because we are the least amount of cash creating group in America now. There's Asian at the top, there's white, there's non white, there's Hispanic, Latino, then there's black. We are the lowest performing at $46,000 a year average, and the poverty level is 35,000. We got to get our children. That is nothing that I want to carry on to the children in the next 100 years. Let's stop that. That's why we got an identity crisis, madam.
Well, we have about 3 minutes left, so I'm going to try to sum it all up in saying that everything that was said tonight, folks, leads to a mental crisis for a lot of people, because everybody don't know how to handle these situations and these challenges. And our children are the ones, as usual, to get caught in the crossfire of anything, whether it's domestic, whether it's religion, whether it's mental, physical, emotional. So we have to, we meaning us older people, older meaning adults, not necessarily seniors, but the older folks, have to realize the impact that is being made on today with our youth and how it's affecting them. They are confused. And yes, I keep saying, I've heard, I don't know how many times too, well, you can't tell them nothing. Well, you're going to have to find a way to tell them. Maybe the talking won't work. Maybe you have to show them and let them see for themselves. This is what happened when such and such a thing happened. And, give them examples, real live examples. And then ask them a question. Well, what do you do if? What would you do? Make them think, the older children. Make them think and see if they can come up with some answers. What would you do if you were caught walking down the street, coming from playing a game, a basketball game with your buddies, and you got pulled over for no reason? You've seen it on TV, so you know it happens. It affects your mind, and you go home with that in your mind. If the police decide to let you go, they just ask you, well, "Hey, boy, what you doing walking down the street? You coming from a basketball game?" Be mindful how you answer them, because they can turn it on you. That kind of conversation is what we have to have with our youth, so that they know to come out of their mouth in a respectful manner. Saying
48
all
seconds.
that to say, we want to say a prayer. Father God, thank you as usual. I'm thanking you every week, Lord. We thank you for being who you are in our conversation and the words that are coming out of our mouth across the air. Let everyone who is hearing us, Lord, receive it in a positive way, and that they can grow from it, learn from it. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you, Lord, for being who you are in our lives. See you all next week. Lord willing, you take care and God bless you.
WBIS LP 106.9. Goodbye.
Hi, you're listening to Awesome Radio 106.9 WBISLP.
Want to put thousands of